Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. TNA Final Resolution is this coming Sunday live on pay-per-view. You can check out the coverage at NoDQ.com. But for now, let's get right down to your questions. Do you think the cryptic promos are for Undertaker's return or Jericho's return as originally said? The rumors going around that it's going to be Chris Jericho. Now, who knows what's going to happen? The belief is that he has either signed a new deal or is about to sign a new deal. The original plan was for Jericho to return around the Royal Rumble, but I guess there was some sort of issue between the two sides, especially when it came to the video game, and Jericho was left out of the game. So it's really unknown what's going to happen right now, and you can always have it be The Undertaker if things fall through with Jericho. And perhaps the promos are designed on purpose, so fans think it's The Undertaker, and therefore it's more of a surprise when Jericho returns. Nobody really knows for sure. Chris Jericho is obviously going to deny it one way or another, so we won't know until January 2nd. And, I mean, at this point, if it's not Jericho, there's going to be a lot of disappointed people, let's just put it that way, because everyone's expecting it to be him, and it's too obvious that it's Undertaker. So we'll see what happens. Back in the days of the Monday Night War, what was your favorite show? Raw or WCW? I'd have to say during the early years, like 95, 96, I was more into WCW just because it was something different. They were pushing the envelope. They were doing different things. They had the cruiserweights. You had the NWO, and that's when it really got hot. And it was live every week. I mean, back then in 1995, 1996, it was cool when Bischoff would give away the results of Raw. And, Nitro was really edgy. You had Medusa coming out, trashing the women's title. And then, all the surprise appearances. Nitro seemed like the place to be. And meanwhile on Raw, you had Doink and Duke the Dumpster Drosy. And it just creatively, WWE was in a very dark period. And it wasn't until around November 1996 when Bret Hart came back and then the Steve Austin feud started. That's when the tide started to turn. And that's when I started finding myself more interested in Raw. And, WCW by 97 was just running in circles with the NWO, and it was the same show every week. And meanwhile on Raw, you had the Hart Foundation and Brian Pillman, Steve Austin, and Raw became the edgier show. And from that period on, I would say I was more into Raw. What was your favorite WCW Thunder moment? Oh dear, Thunder. That brings back memories. I'd have to say my all-time favorite moment was DDP versus the Machine, and basically, the Machine was climbing up to the top rope, and DDP was going to crotch him. But instead of going towards the ropes where the Machine was at, DDP went to the opposite side of the ring and ran into the ropes. And then the Machine just stood up, started screaming. He was like, "Ah!" And then he just jumped halfway across the ring to crotch himself. I mean, just look it up, Machine DDP. It was a classic WCW Thunder blooper moment. And I think there was one with Sid and Scott Hall, and Sid's coming out, and he pushes Hall off the ladder, and Hall takes the absolute worst bump you've ever seen off a ladder. Just so many classic, and Goldberg smashing the limousine, and all the blood squirting over the place, and Goldberg's out of action for 6 months. God, that show, WCW Thunder, and you still kind of have Thunder today with TNA Impact in some ways. Not as bad, though. I will say that. Even the worst TNA, sometimes I go back and watch the Thunder, and it's almost impossible to be as bad as WCW back during that period. Just very difficult. Even though his name is brought up once in a blue moon, it feels like Sid, I just mentioned Sid a moment ago, Sid has received the Benoit treatment to some degree. My question is, why hasn't Sid done anything with WWE? This includes interviews and even sitting in the audience. Well, there could be some sort of issue between Vince McMahon and Sid. I mean, there's no way to really know for sure unless you're either Vince McMahon or Sid. One thing is for sure. I mean, Sid was unreliable for WWE. He would be there for a few months and then he would take time off and play softball or do other things. And he just, when WWE didn't really... they tried to put stock into him, and then he would disappear or something would happen, and things didn't work out between him and WWE for the most part. And I think he was fired 2 or 3 different times at least from WWE. So I'm not really sure what the deal is with them, why he hasn't even like made a cameo appearance or something like that. We do know that he had that serious injury back in 2001 at the end of WCW, and he couldn't wrestle. So, but they have Kevin Nash out there, and he's not doing much. So I don't know. I mean, I guess Sid doesn't have friends in high places. Who knows? Hey Aaron, how come Daniel Bryan is on a massive losing streak right now? Do you think he can gain momentum into 2012? At the moment, I can't see him being champion, even though I really want him to be. Your thoughts? The situation with Daniel Bryan is that WWE tends to do this with guys where they have them go on a losing streak before they finally win a big match. It's like WWE's unique way of having somebody pay their dues, I think. I mean, you have two extremes. You have one extreme where a guy just comes right in and is dominant right from the get-go, like Bill Goldberg. But then we all saw what happened with Goldberg in terms of people claiming that he had a bad attitude and he got pushed too fast and got too much of an ego. But then on the other hand, you have it where WWE has these guys losing so many matches. There's no way for them to get over with fans. You got to have them actually win some matches and be seen as a credible force for fans to really get into them. So I could see both sides of the issue. You really want to have some kind of happy medium where you're pushing a guy, but at the same time, he stays humble, so he doesn't get too big of a head and doesn't think he's bigger than the industry and that sort of thing. So that could be what's going on with Daniel Bryan right now. Is they just want to make sure that he stays humble and doesn't get too much of an attitude, and then when the time's right, they're going to give him the big push. And I still think it's going to happen. I do think that he will get the world title at some point, maybe 2012. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, that'll do it for today's edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQ&AV. Please keep spreading the word. Send a link of this video to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, even MySpace if you're still on there. And on that note, we'll see you next time.